Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Always exciting to jump into a new one.
This time we're going to be tackling principles. Ray Dalio.
Oh, yeah. The founder of Bridgewater Associates.
Exactly.
Big name in the finance world.
And we're going to really try to extract from this book some of the core ideas about how to build a successful company.
I think what's so interesting about Dalio's approach is it kind of goes beyond just the business world. It's really a whole philosophy for life.
Yeah, that's what I was picking up on, too. And I noticed that he spends a lot of time talking about looking to nature and evolution as a source of guidance.
Right.
Which isn't, your typical business advice.
Yeah, it's pretty unique, actually. But he has this belief that if we understand how the natural world works, it can give us some really good insights into the challenges we face in business.
Okay, so what kind of insights? Give me an example.
Well, he uses this kind of vivid analogy of a gazelle being hunted by hyenas.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
Where's he going with this?
Yeah. So it highlights, kind of the harsh reality of nature, but it also shows how important adaptability is for survival.
Right.
Just like that gazelle has to be super quick and agile to avoid becoming lunch.
To stay alive.
Businesses also need to be adaptable and ready to change when they face unexpected obstacles.
So you're saying it's not just about having the perfect plan going in.
Right.
It's about being able to adjust, make mistakes, even fail, and learn from that.
Exactly. And just like in nature, the ones who adapt thrive. The businesses that can learn from their setbacks and evolve are the ones that will succeed in the long run.
So how does this idea of adaptability translate into actual steps for someone running a company?
Well, Dalio is a big believer in having clear guiding principles.
Yeah.
He says they're like a compass that helps you navigate the inevitable challenges that come up.
Right.
These principles, they should be rooted in rational thinking, not emotional reactions.
Wow.
So it's like having this framework that helps you make those level-headed decisions even when things get really tough.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's about stepping back,
Yeah.
looking at the situation objectively, and then making a decision on the best course of action, not just reacting impulsively.
Right. It's about not getting swept up in emotions and staying grounded in logic and evidence.
Okay, so we've got this idea of looking to nature for inspiration.
Yeah.
We've got this idea of having a strong set of principles that are based on rational thought.
Uh-huh.
What's next in Dalio's blueprint for a successful business?
Well, he has this interesting concept where he actually encourages us to treat life and, by extension, our businesses as a game.
A game. Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
So in this game of life, you've got your objectives, you've got your strategies, and you're striving to win. But first, you have to define what winning actually looks like.
That's true for any game. Right? What are the goals?
Exactly. It's all about setting the right goals.
Yeah.
But that can be tricky.
Yeah, where do you even begin?
Choosing your goals carefully is crucial. Don't spread yourself too thin by trying to go after too many at once. Prioritize and focus on the goals that truly matter.
So this is where people get tripped up.
He cautions against trying to do too many things at the same time.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a recipe for overwhelm and not really making progress on anything.
Exactly. Focus is key. And once you've zeroed in on those primary goals, then it's about working towards them systematically.
So it's not just about dreaming big, it's about breaking those dreams down into smaller steps.
Yes, and then putting in the work.
And putting in the work.
Dalio is also really big on this idea of continuous learning and improvement,
Okay.
even in areas where you might not initially feel very skilled.
So it's not just about natural talent. It's about putting in the effort to grow, even when it's hard.
Yeah, he emphasizes that with the right mindset and effort, we can achieve amazing things regardless of where we're starting from.
I'm already seeing how these principles can apply to not just building a business, but really any area of life.
Absolutely. It's a framework for thinking and problem solving.
This is great, but I know Dalio is known for some pretty unconventional ideas too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like this whole radical truth and transparency thing. I'm really curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the most interesting parts of his philosophy.
All right, so let's get into this radical truth and transparency thing.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
It sounds intense.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of intrigued by it.
Okay.
How does that even work in a real world business?
So at Bridgewater, it's not just a concept. It's literally baked into the whole company culture.
Okay.
They've created this environment where everyone's constantly challenging each other.
Even the executives.
Even the executives, to try to get to the most accurate understanding of reality.
So no sugarcoating.
Absolutely no sugarcoating.
Wow. So that's got to be different from most workplaces.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Are there any downsides to having this super transparent culture?
So Dalio acknowledges that it can be uncomfortable,
Right.
but he argues that this level of transparency is actually essential for good decision-making and avoiding mistakes.
Because if everyone's in the loop, there's less room for, like, misunderstandings and surprises.
Right, when everyone has the same information,
Yeah.
you reduce those hidden agendas and those
Mhm.
kind of nasty surprises that pop up.
Makes sense. But how do you get people to buy into this approach? It seems like a huge mindset shift.
So it takes time and effort
Yeah.
to build that kind of trust and openness.
Yeah.
But Dalio believes that being honest, even when it's hard, ultimately makes a relationship stronger and creates a more stable work environment.
So it's about creating a culture where people feel safe speaking up.
Exactly, even if it means disagreeing with the person in charge.
Disagree with the boss.
Yeah, he uses this example. Imagine a company that's considering selling off one of its divisions.
Okay.
In most companies, they'd keep that under wraps for as long as possible
Right. Keep it quiet.
to avoid upsetting people.
Yeah, you don't want to disrupt things.
Exactly. But at Bridgewater, they did the opposite.
Oh, really?
They had this company-wide meeting, and they were completely upfront with their employees about the potential sale.
I bet they got some interesting reactions.
Probably.
Yeah.
But Dalio believes that being honest like that, even when it's tough news, builds trust.
Okay.
Employees are less likely to freak out when rumors start flying because they know the company is going to be straightforward,
Yeah, that makes sense.
even if the news isn't great.
Right. If you know your company's going to be upfront with you, you're probably going to trust them more,
Exactly. And that kind of trust is really valuable.
especially in a high-pressure work environment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen how radical truth can play out with big decisions like restructuring.
Right.
But what about something like performance evaluations?
So this is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Dalio believes those same principles of honesty and transparency should apply to how employees are assessed.
So no more beating around the bush during performance reviews.
Pretty much. They have a very direct and data-driven approach to performance evaluation at Bridgewater.
Okay.
Remember the manager as mechanic analogy?
Right, the company is like a machine.
Yeah, and the manager's job is to keep it running smoothly.
Okay.
And just like a mechanic needs accurate readings from their tools,
Uh,
managers at Bridgewater use data to assess employee performance. They can see where things are working well
Mm.
and where they need to be improved.
and then they use that information to give really specific feedback.
Right,
So instead of just saying like, oh, you need to be more proactive,
right,
they might say something like, hey, you missed these 3 deadlines.
right.
Let's work on your time management skills.
Exactly. It's about providing concrete examples and actionable steps.
So much more helpful than just vague feedback.
Exactly. Dalio argues that sugarcoating feedback actually harms both the person and the company.
Because it prevents them from growing.
Yeah, it's about creating a culture of accountability and continuous improvement.
Where everyone's working together towards the same goal.
Right. And a key part of that is something Dalio calls hitting bottom.
Hitting bottom. That sounds kind of scary.
It's not as bad as it sounds.
Ew.
He's talking about that moment when someone realizes they need to change.
Like they've hit a low point and are ready for something different.
Exactly. Like a wake-up call.
Got it.
And Dalio believes that those moments combined with honest feedback are essential for growth.
So it's about recognizing your weaknesses and being open to that feedback.
Yes, and then using that information to improve.
Okay, so we've got these guiding principles,
Yeah.
setting the right goals,
Mm-hmm.
embracing radical truth and transparency.
Right.
What else does Dalio recommend for building a successful business?
He's really big on having systems in place to measure progress and identify areas for improvement.
And this is where the flowcharts and metrics come in.
Exactly.
Okay, so flowcharts and metrics. Lay it on me.
This is where Dalio really takes that company as a machine analogy to the next level.
Okay, how so?
He believes you can literally map out every process within a company, like a flowchart.
Like actual flowcharts with the boxes and arrows and everything?
Yes, exactly. Dalio is all about visualizing those processes. It helps identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies.
So you can see where things are breaking down.
Right. It's like a visual roadmap for how work gets done.
And then once you've got that roadmap, you can start measuring things, right?
Exactly. That's where the metrics come in. You track data at each stage of the process.
So it's not just about having a process in place. It's about constantly measuring and analyzing it.
Exactly. You're making sure it's efficient as possible.
Makes sense. So this data-driven approach is a big part of creating that culture of accountability and transparency.
Absolutely. It's not just about open communication. It's about how you measure results, too.
So it's like a true meritocracy. Success is based on performance, not on who you know.
Exactly. Dalio is all about creating that level playing field.
Okay, so we've got these flowcharts, metrics, radical truth, and transparency. It's all coming together. But how do you actually build an organization that can put these principles into practice?
Dalio believes in a structured approach. He's all about strong leadership, starting from the top down.
So it's not just about hiring brilliant people. It's about finding the right people for the culture.
Exactly. Dalio believes managers should be trustworthy, have high standards, and be able to inspire their teams.
It sounds like he's creating a pretty hierarchical structure.
It is, but Dalio argues that this structure actually allows for more creativity.
So.
When everyone knows their role and how it fits into the bigger picture, they can focus on doing their best work.
Interesting. So it's like having a strong foundation actually frees people up to be more creative.
Exactly. And Dalio also advocates for something called departmental self-sufficiency.
What does that mean?
Each department has the resources and freedom to make decisions without a ton of bureaucracy.
Okay, so they can move quickly.
Exactly. And finally, Dalio emphasizes the importance of having the right ratio of managers to employees.
So you don't want too many layers of management.
Right. It can slow things down. You need that balance between oversight and autonomy.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into Dalio's principles.
It really makes you think about how to approach success.
It's not just about business. It's a philosophy for life.
Absolutely. So for our listeners out there, what resonated most with you? Did any of Dalio's principles spark an idea?
Or challenge a preconceived notion.
How could embracing even one of these principles lead to greater success in your life?
That's something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into principles.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing those boundaries.